the brutal eradication policy towards Uyghurs amounts to a genocide, and the international community must recognize it as a genocide and also try to hold the communist regime accountable for it.
إنه السويدي ديفيد ليغا الذي تمكن من على كرسيه المتحرك أن يحقق إنجازات باهرة بدءا من حياته المهنية، إذ حطم 14 رقما قياسيا كسباح عالمي وصولا إلى إسماع صوته للعالم بعد دخوله عالم السياسة. لكن لماذا يهتم شخص مثله يحظى برفاهية اجتماعية بقضية الإيغور؟ ومن أين ينطلق دفاعه عن تلك الأقلية؟ يعتبر ديفيد ليغا أبرز المدافعين عن أقلية الإيغور وأكثرهم جرأة في التعبير عن مواقفه حيال ما ترتكبه الصين. تشغل قضية الإيغور في شينجيانغ العالم، ولو أنه ليس هناك من خطوات عملية يمكن أن تغير واقع تلك الأقلية نظرا لعوامل عديدة. أولها وقع العلاقات التجارية التي تقيمها الصين مع دول كثيرة، والتي تلوي من خلالها ذراع الدولة التي تطلق مواقف سياسية رافضة لسياسة الاضطهاد وانتهاكات حقوق الإنسان في الصين. في العام 2019 انتخب ليغا عضواً في البرلمان الأوروبي وعمل في لجنة الشؤون الخارجية ولجنتها الفرعية لحقوق الإنسان. فدخول ليغا ذلك المجال يأتي من كونه حظي بفرصة بمساعدة آخرين كي يكون ما هو عليه اليوم، ومن هنا فهو يشعر بوجوب رد الجميل بإعطاء الفرص للآخرين إن كانوا على كرسي متحرك أم مسلوبي الحرية في المعتقلات ظلماً. وفي ذلك السياق يندرج دفاعه عن الإيغور، فتجده يأخذ تلك المسألة على عاتقه في ظل صمت دولي أو تدخل دولي خجول. مراسل الأخبار الآن في السويد أيكن بيكر أجرى لقاء خاصا مع ليغا وسأله عن دعوته الاتحاد الأوروبي والحكومة السويدية إلى الاعتراف بأن ما تقوم به الصين من قمع ممنهج ضد الإيغور مجزرة واضطهاد.
What is the actions that you are asking the European Union and the Swedish government to take to prevent this human rights violation and put a stop on it?
I mean, there are many different tools that we can do, and even though some EU member states, like Lithuania, has recognized the atrocities against the Uyghurs as a genocide, still, unfortunately, the European Parliament and the EU have not officially done that. So I have been working towards a genocide recognition, and I will continue to do so. But with that said, the EU has been taking some important steps towards putting pressure on China concerning the genocide regardless. I mean, the Parliament has pushed for the ban of all imports and products that are made through forced labor, for example. And a few months ago, the Commission announced that that ban is becoming a reality. And then we are drafting a law right now on due diligence that puts the responsibility on each individual company, and its purpose is to encourage companies to take actions to reduce environmental impact, for example, but also to ensure human rights in their supply chains. And we can see globally other states taking positive action too. For example, the US House of Representatives backed the legislation that imposes a ban on all imports from the Xinjiang region unless proof can be given that the goods are free from Uyghur forced labor. So there are many ways we can do. I mean, numerous European states have announced their diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics, which is going to be held in Beijing next month. And that is also one way we can do. But what is most important is that we need to act consistent and principled in our relations with China.
يعتبر ليغا من الذين يؤمنون بأن النضال يمكن أن يؤدي إلى النتيجة المثلى، وهو عندما قرر الترشح قال لنفسه إنه يريد أن يكون صوت الأشخاص الذين يواجهون صعوبة بالغة في جعل صوتهم مسموعا، أكانوا أشخاصا ذوي إعاقة أم مسجونين أم مسلوبي الحقوق.
What is the practical steps to be taken, more serious steps to be taken against China from now on? What is your perspective in the short term?
Well, I believe that all EU policies must incorporate human rights, and we should take every opportunity to put pressure on China because of their violation of such rights. We cannot condemn China's mass human rights violations and then create economical agreements giving China ambitious openings to European investments. And there we have the KAI. That is an example, because it's an economical agreement which ratification was rightly paused after China's counter sanctions towards the EU. So we need to continue to do that and demonstrate the weight that the same approach towards China has an international procurement instrument, the IPI. I mean, that balances the economic relations with China by giving advantage to the EU to negotiate reciprocal opening of public procurements in third countries. And definitely diplomatic sanctions against China when it comes to boycotting the Winter Olympics, because we want our athletes to win medals, but we don't need to let our political leaders to take part of the propaganda surrounding the games.
إذن يتمتع ليغا بجرأة كافية ليدعو الاتحاد الأوروبي لاعتبار ما تقوم به الصين بحق الإيغور مجزرة، موقف فردي لا ترقى إليه الدول بشكلها الرسمي حتى الآن، ومن هنا دعا ليغا تلك الدول إلى أن تكون أكثر وضوحاً لا أن تختبئ خلف إصبعها كحالة السويد مثلاً.
And that's on the EU level. What about you call on Swedish government to take action? What is the particular action that you want the Swedish government to take?
Well, unfortunately, the Swedish government is too weak regarding their actions towards China and their condemnation. They are now said that they are not going to go to the Winter Olympics, but instead of saying that it's a diplomatic boycott, they're saying that it's because of the COVID, which means that when they say that it's not a boycott, they actually strengthen China in their actions.
أيكن سأل ليغا عما إذا كانت العقوبات بمفردها يمكن أن تمنع انتهاكات حقوق الإنسان في الصين، فأشار إلى أن العقوبات لا تكفي لوقف عمليات الإبادة، لكنها تترك أثراً، وتوضح للآخرين كتايوان مثلاً أن الاتحاد الأوروبي ليس خائفا من التحرك بالرغم من ردات فعل الصين وتهديداتها.
No, I think we have to emphasize the fact that no one can stop China's violation against the Uyghur but the Chinese regime. So no, sanctions are not enough in itself to stop a genocide, but they do have a worth. It signals that we have not forgotten about the civil society, and it also shows others like Taiwan that the EU is not afraid to act despite China's counteractions and threats. So states and the intergovernmental organizations can impose different types of sanctions when serious human rights violations are committed. I mean, there are economic and diplomatic sanctions, and also very important sanctions targeting specific individuals. And social pressure on it as much as possible. We need to continue with that until it's not sustainable for China and the Chinese Communist Party to continue these horrible atrocities. I hope that no one will visit the Winter Olympics, for example, but I also hope that the larger majority of them will dare to say that it's because of the treatment of Uyghurs, the situation in Taiwan, the horrible situation in Hong Kong, instead of blaming COVID for not going, because that strengthens China instead. What we need to do is see the major power that the European Union is when we are working together and when we are united. I mean, we should focus on the things that really matters and where we as a union can make a difference, which is trade, free movement, climate change, and human rights. Those are the main principles we should be focusing more on in the future. And I see that we are moving towards that, and I hope that continues.
Do you feel the sense that the European countries trying or starting to have the same position that Sweden has, or this is just on the national level that each government has to take?
Well, I think that most countries in the world are becoming more and more aware of the threat that China and Iran faces, and that they are not only a threat in their region, but they are a threat on a global level. So what many countries surrounding Iran have seen for many years are now also more visible on a global scale.
يعتبر ليغا أن الأشخاص الذين يواجهون المشاكل والمضطهدين وغيرهم يستحقون فرصة في الحياة كما حظي هو بفرصة ذات يوم، لكن في النهاية يتوقف الأمر عليك كي تكون النسخة الأفضل من نفسك، يقول ليغا.